Club. President Obama says the United States is prepared to use military force in Iraq to prevent genocide and also stop the radical Islamists from advancing into the northern part of the country.
Tens of thousands of religious minorities targeted by the terrorists are trapped in the mountains, and the U.S. is already airdropping humanitarian aid to help keep those refugees alive. Gary Lane has the story.
Speaking from the White House Thursday night, President Obama said America is coming to help stranded Iraqis.
The United States of America cannot turn a blind eye. We can act carefully and responsibly to prevent a potential act of genocide.
When Islamic State fighters recently overran the town of Sinjar, more than 50,000 Yazidis fled for the mountains. Some men were reportedly captured and killed. Some women were taken as sex slaves.
This is a desperate situation, particularly for children. We know for sure that 40 children have already died. That's the numbers we can confirm, but it's probably much more than that. The situation for them is they're on the mountains, they're on the sides of the mountains, they've got no vegetation, no cover, they're sleeping out in the open, they've got no food, no water, no medical supplies.
President Obama ordered humanitarian airdrops to provide water and other needed supplies to sustain the desperate and dying Yazidis. And the president says the U.S. will not hesitate to launch military airstrikes against Islamic State fighters if they advance to the Kurdish capital of Erbil. One goal of the Islamic State is to clear its territory of all non-Muslims. It's already ejected the Yazidis, an ancient religious group similar to Zoroastrianism, from the northwestern cities of Sinjar and Zumar. The Islamic State is fighting to control the nearby Mosul Dam. That would give it control of the water and electricity flowing into Mosul and other parts of the northern Nineveh Plains. And more recently, at least 100,000 Christians have once again fled Karakosh and other towns near Mosul. Karakosh is the largest Christian city in the north. More than 500,000 Iraqis have fled fighting in the north since June. CBN Disaster Relief has provided many of them, including these Christians from Karakosh, with requested items like soap and towels, mattresses, pillows, and powdered milk. And the Islamic State isn't containing its jihad to Iraq. The group is gaining more territory in Syria, and now it's even moved into Lebanon. The city of Arsal is just over the mountains not far from Syria and Lebanon's Bekaa Valley. It's predominantly Sunni Muslim, and some of its more militant citizens are supporters of the Islamic State and its self-proclaimed caliph, Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi. So far, the Lebanese army has been unable to drive the IS fighters from Lebanese territory. And back in Baghdad, perhaps it was the tearful plea of this Yazidi lawmaker that inspired U.S. action.
Our families have been slaughtered. Set aside your political differences. In the name of humanity, I call upon all of you to save us. To save us.
A plea that has finally found a response from the White House.
Well, Gary Lane is with us here for more on this story. Gary, we heard that tearful plea.
Yes.
What's the reality on the ground here?
Reality on the ground is you still have at least 25,000 Yazidis in the mountains. They're exposed to the elements. Many are starving. Many are without water. The U.S. is starting to do some airdrops, but it's not going to be enough. What we need to do is get them out of the mountains and into safe shelters.
We heard reports last month of this same group, ISIS, crucifying Christians in Syria.
Beheading as well.
And is the plight of these refugees either stay on the mountain and starve or come down and be beheaded?
Well, if they come down, they have four choices. One is either you convert to Islam. If you don't, you pay a jizya tax and live under Sharia law. The third thing is you leave. Where are they going to go? Erbil is probably the last place, and that's under threat now. Or you die.
Well, what's the strategic importance of this dam in Mosul?
The dam controls the hydroelectric and the water of that entire region in the northern Nineveh Plains and also flowing down to Baghdad. So what the Islamic State wants to do is control the electric. They want to control the water. Now, if they feel threatened, who's to say they won't blow up the dam? If that happens, you'll have the whole area will be flooded, and also all the way down to Baghdad because it's all along the Tigris River. The Tigris River will overflow its banks, and even in Baghdad, they'll have flooding.
In terms of a regional conflict? How big of a threat do you see here? I mean, you look at this group, and it's rare to see an alliance of other Muslims against them, but Saudi Arabia has now pledged $1 billion to help Lebanon with its armed forces resist it. Iran is saying that these guys are real trouble. If you think we're bad, these guys are worse. And they're mobilizing. What's the regional threat?
Well, this group has replaced al-Qaeda probably as the most serious threat in the region. They now control 1/3 of Syria. They control 1/4 of Iraq. And now they're already moving in Lebanon, as we had in that report. They're causing problems there in a town called Arsal. And they're still there. What are we going to do about it? Now, what many of the Kurdish people that I talked to when I was there about a month ago said, they said two things. Number one, the U.S. needs to support the Peshmerga, that's the Kurdish military, give them heavy arms and weapons. Their weaponry is outdated. The other thing they told me is, look, if Maliki steps down from the prime ministership in Baghdad, all of this will be resolved. I don't know. I think that's kind of simplistic. But politically, I think it would go a long way to resolving some differences.
Hasn't the head of ISIS already declared the caliphate?
Oh, sure.
And hasn't he already declared himself to be the ruler?
But how much support is he going to have in the long run? That's the key. Now, what I was told by people in Iraq when I was there is that the caliph is receiving support from some of the former Ba'athist people. Because Maliki has kept all the oil money for the Shias and also for his cronies and his people. Nothing has gone in to develop the western part and the northern part of the area where the Sunnis are. And they want a piece of the pie.
Do you think limited airstrikes is going to work?
No.
Is that going to help at all?
Well, I think that would help deter them from the Islamic State forces from moving into Erbil, if we did that to keep them out of there. But in the long run, no.
All right. Well, Gary, thank you for being with us. This is a serious situation. Yes. Whenever you see Saudis and Iranians allying together against a group, that shows you how serious it is. If you want to know more about Islam, ISIS is Islam in its raw state. This is, when they proclaim a caliphate, they're not joking. They really mean it. And when they go in to cleanse an area from non-Muslims, they really mean it too. They're not playing games. And when you see crucifixions, when you see beheadings in the name of Allah, you need to get informed on what is that about? What's the basis for this? We've got something for you. It's called Islam, Religion of Peace or War. It's free for you. All you have to do is call us and we'll send it to you. Here's a quote from it. "We are not afraid of death, but we desire it. How wonderful death is. Let us die in redemption for Muslims. Jihad is our course of action, and death in the cause of Allah our most precious wish." Get informed that we're in literally a war of ideas, and what your ideas about God. If you think dying in the name of Allah is your ticket to heaven, you need to think again. We need to be informed about what they really believe. So if you want it, just give us a call. We can email it to you or mail it to you, or you can download it from cbn.com.